Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Feminine Alchemy. I'm Kayelee Rose, and this particular episode is a special one. It's actually an excerpt from one of my research interviews where I was gathering information about Black Moon Lilith, the Eve Point, White Moon Selene. Not theoretical information, I already had that. This was one of the ways that I gathered information about people's real life experiences with these points and with these energies. And so what follows is a beautiful example of the Feminine Powerline and Resonant Astrology and how it can speak to real lived experience for women. I hope you enjoy this glimpse into my research, this glimpse into a beautiful, beautiful example of what happens when someone finally cracks into where and how they actually belong. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Feminine Alchemy podcast, where we explore the truth about the feminine, the peaceful, the wild, and the visceral. I'm your host, J.N. Behringer, joined by my co-hosts, Julie Dean Richards and Kayelee Rose. Each week, we explore the deep mysteries of the feminine and help listeners apply them to their daily lives in a practical way. Join us to unlock the hidden wisdoms your soul has been waiting for.
So Black Moon Lilith is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people will say White Moon Selene is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. True, she would always be opposite Black Moon Lilith, and in most people's charts, she is not. So White Moon Selene is actually a hypothetical second moon of the Earth that has a 7-year cycle to go through all the zodiac signs. But I'll explain all of that more closer to the end of the interview. For now, if it's okay, I would love to ask you some questions about your lived experience.
Please.
Okay.
I would love to share.
So I already kind of have an idea of where to take questions, not just based off of your chart, but have you had experiences where you have found yourself either struggling against or fighting in some way with your worldview or philosophical beliefs or your religious beliefs?
A bit of a rebel when it comes to any kind of system or religion. Yes, that tracks.
Yeah. And when it comes to kind of like playing devil's advocate or being able to see both sides of the coin, do you feel that you have that capacity to see both sides of the coin?
Yes, and I believe it's because of my autism, because I can see the patterns in both sides, the patterns that are very similar. I can see the common threads, and I can see where they meet, and I can see the big picture. I can see the whole picture. It's not very often that I'm invited to share it, or if I do, I trigger people hardcore. So my Saturn in the 3rd house is like, I'm just not going to talk at all.
Let's close that down.
Right? But then I'm like, I have to say something.
Have you ever felt like you have, on maybe an unconscious level, sabotaged your learning or even your teaching when it comes to your worldview?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, that has been very, very clear to me in the last 3 days, how much I have chosen to hide and chosen, like I talked to you about before, the appearance of evil. That's the thing that keeps playing out in my head, is I want to avoid anything that looks like the appearance of evil.
Yeah.
And then this also kind of, if you look at when we talked about my neurodivergence, I have tried to do everything possible to appear neurotypical. And I'm very, very aware when people do things that are weird or look autistic, and to make note of it and say, don't do that.
Interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so we're kind of like healing both of these parts of me, and it's a lot, but it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
I definitely relate to that. It's a lot and it's good, but it's a lot.
Like my Lilith she's pissed. Like she's really mad. But yeah, and again, I have a sun in the 12th house. So let's think about that in regards of like hidden enemies. Like, yeah, there's ways that I can see the hidden enemies and other ways, but for the most part, the biggest one is me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's been playing into this.
Okay. So when it comes to the pursuit of higher truth or even the pursuit of independence and free will, have you ever had experiences where you just felt you needed to do something even though it didn't make sense and you either took a leap of faith or shut yourself down?
Yeah.
Would you
Yeah,
be willing to elaborate on
absolutely.
any of that?
There are definitely times where I feel like I need to make a statement or a stand to
Mhm.
feel like I need to give myself a title or do something a little extreme to make a point. And a lot of times when I start, and this is again when I put myself out in the public, if I start sharing my very different ideas or, possibly triggering truths, I'm deeply wounded most of the time. The rejection is very real for me and it shuts me down. And that's the thing. It's not the people that force me to go back into my little hole and like, what, I'm going to just do me by myself. I'm just going to think what I think inside me and in my home and I'll do that. I will retreat immediately I'll just be weird inside me. And then God's like, no, you got to share all this fabulous information I've been sharing with you. You get downloads all the time. So you better share it with people because it's important. It has value. And so I put myself out there again. And I'm getting to the point now, I'm just expecting it. Just this whole idea of like, you're going to teach people about the witch wound. I'm like, just expect people aren't going to like that at this point. And honestly, I know it's true. And many women have said it's real. And I felt it. It's real. And I can't deny it. I can't deny how much it's affected me. And so I gotta do it. And that's when
Yeah.
Lilith steps in and says, I am done. I'm done playing nice. I'm gonna just be super weird.
Mhm.
And I am. And is it triggering a lot of people? Not as many as I thought. So am I starting to believe now that it was very self-sabotaging and very much like I was projecting my own fears on people? Yes. Yes, I am.
And I love how open you are to that kind of awareness and like accepting that awareness rather than like totally shutting it down. And it's probably been a process for you,
Yeah, absolutely.
not just and I'm just going to be fine with this awareness.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But I'm realizing I'm not as weird as I thought. There's a lot of other weirdos out there.
yeah.
So and it's awesome. And I'm meeting them and I'm like,
Yeah.
what the beliefs that they've been able to just kind of bring together and it makes sense for them and they're able to just like ground in that. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty impressive.
Okay. So when you do feel connected to a higher truth or a philosophy that you just like feel deeply is true, do you find yourself more willing to take those leaps of faith and do whatever it is that you feel that needs to be done?
Yes, yes. And that usually includes some kind of title that I feel like God gives me that helps that I can stand firm in that and then move forward with
Mhm.
that.
So having like a specific word or set of words to kind of ground yourself to, is that kind
Yeah, so
of
in my business and in the work I do, God very clearly gave me the title Divine Feminine Alignment Practitioner.
Mhm.
And so I'm constantly doing what I need to do to align with my divine feminine. And as a practitioner, I am studying the hell out of it. I want to know it in and out, backwards and forwards. And so that title that I feel like personally that God gave me Is it because I'm an expert or have been an expert? No. It's because I need it. I need that to keep saying that title. As I keep saying it to people, say, oh, this is what I am. I then ask myself, how am I doing with that? You know? And then he gave me the title Faith Promoting Astrologer. So have I always looked at my chart with faith? You look at it and you say, would you look at that with faith?
Not necessarily. I mean, looking at your chart with openness, like, yeah, of course. But if I imagine living inside of your chart, like living that energy, that experience, I imagine I would definitely have moments where faith is a little bit hard to hold on to.
And so, like, the law of polarity here, the law of opposition here is very real for me. But I can see now how it's been for my benefit. Have I always seen it that way? Absolutely not. But the constant tug of, like, the tension keeps bringing me into alignment. This is set up to bring me in alignment with him and with myself.
That's beautiful. And I love your use of the word tension, because as I look at your chart and I see this grand cross here, this mutable grand cross, it's got all those squares in it and those it's all about tension, but it is about tension that brings you into alignment, that brings you to center. And so, yeah, I love your word choice as you're describing what you're living, what you're experiencing.
Yes. And so when I have that title of Faith Promoting Astrologer, when I read charts, I want to make sure that I am inspiring them and encouraging them to have faith when they look at their chart instead of feeling like a victim. Because
Yeah.
victim, as we know, is wounded feminine, and that's just not a place of power, and we don't want that. We want a place of faith. When I look at my chart, I say, okay, how can I look at this in a way that's faith promoting? How can I look at this in the light? And then that encourages me to look at theirs too that way. However, I do not ignore the shadow, because we all know that strengthens our faith when we look at the shadow. So not everyone knows that, but I know you do.
Yes. Yes. I definitely believe that shadow work is the ultimate light work. So
It brings you closer to light, to divine, to God, whoever. It brings you closer.
So, I mean, this question that I'm about to ask probably seems a little like not necessarily redundant, but just like, well, duh, Kayelee, like, yeah. But my question is, have you had experience with the concept of feminine deity, female deity? And what has your experience with that been, if you have?
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I've been exploring that just recently. That has been kind of we don't go there in my church. And we know she exists, but that's about it. And it doesn't make sense to me that she wouldn't want to be connected with me. I don't think it's ever really made sense, but I think I've just kind of shut myself down because I'm not allowed to think those things. And that's kind of where maybe that Chiron too. I'm not allowed to think these things that I think, because I'm always trying to expand my mind and see both sides. But there is a very real oppressive energy that I've experienced, not only in church, but in my home, that says I'm not allowed to think this way. And that goes beautifully with my neurodivergence.
Yeah. Oh, man. So actually, let's talk a little bit about Black Moon Lilith and the Eve point. And probably we're probably also going to talk about White Moon Selene in your actual chart and in your actual life. And actually, we have been talking about these points in your actual lived experience, but I haven't said, hey, yeah, that what you just said relates to this. So we're going to do that now.
Perfect.
So with Black Moon Lilith and the Eve point, they together make up what I refer to as the Feminine Powerline. And they have to do with the shadow of feminine energy as well as the light of feminine energy, and both like this concept of disempowered and empowered energy. And they're also, from what I have observed, they're also connected to, especially for women. I haven't felt into it or observed as much for men, but I also haven't talked to nearly as many men about this. But it connects us to our female ancestors as well and their feminine power.
Okay, that's happening for sure.
Yeah, when you were talking about your ancestor that you recently discovered, I was like, okay, yep. Plus your Black Moon Lilith and your Eve point, they're so close to that midheaven angle and that Imam Coily angle. So the MC and the IC, which is very much like, where have I come from? And even an ancestors piece, as well as a where am I going? And what do my ancestors think about it piece.
Seriously. I have just recently realized how much they've been trying to protect me. I'm like, okay, we can stop now. So not only has it been self-sabotage, like I can agree with that, but I can definitely feel how they've been trying to protect me from their fate. And rightfully so. But I'm just like, Kate, we're living in a much modern world now. It's very different. Things are very, very different. We can let go. Let
Yeah.
me live my life.
Yes, exactly. I have observed that Black Moon Lilith in particular, I'm not quite sure about the Eve point yet, but that Black Moon Lilith tends to give us information about how the witch wound manifests for us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, yours having to do with intelligence, information gathering, learning, but also relating to philosophy and worldview and even religion. And like, how does this all play together? How do I look at both sides of the coin and reconcile things that other people tell me can't be reconciled, even though on some level there's a part of me that's like, of course they can be reconciled.
Yeah.
Like, do you relate to that?
Absolutely. But I think my brain I think it just naturally sees how things meet. I think it's just how it's wired. I mean, the neurodivergent brain is able to see patterns and it's able to see the bigger picture and get it out, and like not be so emotional and so attached. Like it can absolutely be attached, but it can very much be detached. And so then you're not so attached to your philosophies and your beliefs that you can actually kind of detach them from a little bit and see something a different way.
Yeah. And that is definitely a gift and a very valuable way of being able to approach the world. It just sometimes ends up feeling kind of heavy because of how so many people around us interact with the world.
Right. Yeah. And they're kind of like, how can she do that? Like that. Obviously, she is in the wrong. Obviously, she is being misled. Obviously, she's not right in the head, whatever. And that's the thing. I can't help not thinking this way. It's not something I can just say, oh, okay, I'll think differently. I'll think a different way. This is just my brain. It's my neurotype. There's nothing I can do about it. And again, like with the witch wound, they're women. Like there's nothing they can do about it. They can't change being women, like they're women. And so I kind of feel like, okay, so it's not safe for me to be a woman and it's not safe for me to have my brain. Cool. It's just not safe to be me. Period. That's what this has been telling me my entire life until about yesterday.
So this is very fresh, this kind of shift in seeing things.
Yeah, because I'm integrating all the weirdness into me, all that Uranus energy. Like I said, I'm moving to that point, and I feel like I'm already on that point, and that shifting is already happening, and we're integrating all the weird, and it's exciting. Finally,
That is exciting. The Eve point, which is 180 degrees across from your Black Moon Lilith, so it's hanging out really close
right?
To your IC and your Uranus. And the Eve point, it tends to be an area, like represent an area where we're more likely to take a leap of faith, more likely to trust. And often it's a trusting in the dynamic of masculine and feminine energy. But when you were talking about like when God gives you a title or words as like a grounding point is more my words than what you said. But I was like, oh, that sounds to me like the Eve point in the third house and in Sagittarius. That word and communication, like the third house can have a lot to do with like actual words and titles and like how do we piece together words and how do we piece them apart, and to have that like, okay, here's this title. Now pursue the truth and keep coming back to it. As you were speaking about that, I was like, okay, yeah, that is a manifestation of the Eve point. 100,
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Uh,
And also, like, I've been able to kind of see, getting into religion, God had different names, Jesus had different names. People get different names at different times because they have missions. And I believe that there's purpose in that.
Yes, I agree with you. And with the Eve point, I don't know if you have necessarily experienced this, but it does seem like sometimes, so Black Moon Lilith, if we are not aware of her and consciously working with her, she's a little bit more likely to show up in a, I guess, karmic way, a way where it's like, oh my gosh, I have some baggage I need to process. Or like just, when you have that internal stuff that you're not addressing and you kind of like lash out or you implode. Black Moon Lilith energy is more likely to show up that way without an intentional interaction with the energy.
She can be really reactive. I
Yes.
can see that.
Yeah. And then the Eve point, it's kind of like how the North Node tends to be dharmic. It tends to express in the light, but it absolutely can express in shadow. That's similar to the Eve point, where it usually will express in a, like, I guess, integrated kind of a way, but not always, especially if we shut down when we have that opportunity to take the leap of faith, that opportunity to trust that we feel in our bones and then we shut it down. Like that is the Eve point, kind of like, I'm going to stick my head in the sand and I'm going to feign naivety and pretend I don't know what's going on so that I don't have to take that leap of faith.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of this hermit energy for me, where I just want to go back to my house, go back to my own mind, my own world, and live there, and everyone else can live their own life.
Yeah.
But I promised to heal, and I promised to teach. I did. That's why we're here.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I wanted to touch on your White Moon Selene a little bit. I'm not 100% sure. Well, technically, I'm not 100% sure about how any of these points express yet. I just have my theories and my interactions with other people and with my own life and chart that keep pointing to the same types of patterns. But with White Moon Selene, I have this hypothesis that she kind of represents our relationship with female deity, or the concept of the mother god or heavenly mother.
That makes a lot of sense. Being in Capricorn, I'm just
Yes.
like,
Yep.
the rules. There are rules.
And when you're talking about like even in your home, she's right there in the fourth house in that Capricorn energy, that there are boundaries and borders and like there's got to be this groundedness and stability to it. But also, and that can feel limiting for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Capricorn is a very physical sign. And so it is more likely for you to experience a connection to female deity through your body and through the earth than through, say, your mind. And does that line up with your lived?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why I keep getting in my own way with this, because I feel like there is, and also this could be just my Virgo, but just like there's a right way to approach her. There's a right way to connect with her. And I have to figure out what that right way is. And she's like, just stop. Just stop for a minute. You already are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's kind of this echoing of like, because Capricorn can be a very like foundational energy, but the fourth house can also have this sense of foundation to it. And so it's like, will you return to your foundation? Will you return to what's most deeply grounded in you? Because she's already there.
Right. And it's interesting how much that has opened up for me in this. I am deeply feminine, always have been, but I reject it so much because I'm scared. And like I said, the feminine has been so misunderstood, and I don't particularly like to be misunderstood. Do you?
Nope. I'm not sure that anybody enjoys being misunderstood.
think so. So that is something that has really integrated with me recently, just yesterday, really. I've had huge shifts and downloads, but yeah, like I'm innately deeply feminine, and that energy, like that inner knowing of her is so real.
Mhm.
And I just need to stop blocking it. I just need to stop it.
So maybe what you've been experiencing over the past few days is part of why we weren't able to do this last weekend
Yeah,
and why
right?
we're doing it today instead.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always divine timing, and that's so much astrology, isn't it? It just
Mhm.
reminds us of that divine timing. There's so much comfort in that, but also trying to be patient is hard.
Yes, it can definitely be very, very difficult. So do you have any questions about any of the points that I've talked about or anything else that's come to mind that it feels relevant or important to share right now?
Um, the one thing I did notice, it's not a huge orb, but I wondered how my moon in Cancer plays with White Moon, Celine.
Your white moon, Celine? Let's see. So yeah, it's about a 6, not quite a 6-degree difference.
Is that not a close enough orb?
I mean, I'm honestly of the opinion that if the native feels it, it's there. I mean,
Okay.
that is a wider orb than I would normally use.
I feel there's something there I need
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. And so we're gonna talk a little bit about the type of astrology that I've created. I call it resonant astrology. Um, Everything comes back, all the feminine energies ultimately come back to the moon. And all these lunar points that I'm talking about, Black Moon Lilith, White Moon Selene, is a little bit different as far as lunar points go, but it is connected to the moon. And the Eve point, even your North Node and your South Node, they all communicate back to and stem from the moon. And so it's like the moon has a little bit of all of these things in her, all of these
Okay.
different points.
Okay.
And where White Moon Selene is a hypothetical second moon of the Earth, I do sometimes wonder if she's a little bit more removed from the moon than the other lunar points that are actually derived from the moon's position. And so with this, I don't know, it's really fascinating having that opposition, kind of that juxtaposition of, because like the moon in a lot of ways is the ultimate mother energy. And so you've got Cancer and you've got Capricorn involved here. And I wonder if it's almost this like, can you experience the whole spectrum of what it is to belong? Because Cancer and
Oh,
Capricorn both have connections to belonging, and origins and tradition and where have you come from, but also what are you building from where you came from and what are you going to leave behind. And so it's like these very key feminine points are like asking you to explore the entirety of that
okay.
whole spectrum.
That makes sense, being a 0 degree, that critical degree
Mhm.
moon.
Yeah.
I'm just on that journey, just
Yeah.
starting. So that makes a lot of sense. But when you said, like, yeah, I felt it in my stomach when you were talking about this sense of belonging. That has never, I actually don't believe that's a thing anymore.
You don't believe what is a thing? A sense of belonging?
Hmm. I
Interesting.
don't feel like that's
Will
possible.
you explain that?
I don't think I've ever felt a full sense of belonging with anybody or like any family, any group. There's always something about me that they're like, that's strange, that's weird, that's threatening, that's as a sense of belonging. I definitely can feel like heaven, but even that I struggle with. So it's a deep, I'm not even sure that belonging is available for me. And I've even explored the like, well, I belong to myself or I belong to my body. But even that, I reject that too. So
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you for going into that because a lot of my work does center around the idea of internal belonging, belonging to the self. And so it's intriguing to me not to discount the reality of your lived experience and the emotions that you've experienced, I'm sure, along with this sense of like, well, I don't belong here and I don't belong here and I reject the idea of belonging to myself. It is interesting to me to hear you say that. Because it's like, okay.
I'm an outlier.
Yeah, because my brain's like, okay, is she an outlier? Or is there something within her that is blocking her from not necessarily something that's fundamentally a part of you, but like, is there some wounding that is preventing you from feeling a sense of belonging to yourself?
Yeah, it's cyclical. I feel like I've felt this way over eons, generations. I feel like every carnation or whatever you want to say, I feel like I've always felt that way. I don't think I've felt any different.
Interesting. And that's okay. Like,
I'm a weirdo.
what I mean by that's okay is like, that's okay for you to be like, this is how I feel and this is what I've experienced. And it doesn't necessarily line up with what you're saying, Kayelee. Like, that's totally okay.
But I want to. Like, it's a
Yeah.
deep desire in me. I mean, Cancer moon, interesting, all of this stuff playing with the IC and all this stuff playing, it's obviously there. And I obviously have this desire to belong. But when I'm talking about faith promoting astrology, I'd probably say that is where I have the most doubt and the most skepticism.
That belonging to yourself or belonging, period. Like belonging
This belonging
somewhere.
period,
Yeah.
because I will find things to reject about myself and I will say I don't belong even to myself. I will question my own beliefs. I will question, so what is belonging? I guess I need to start there. What is that? Maybe I have the experience or the definition wrong, or it's not, so there's a journey.
Yeah. Defining that for yourself.
Yeah, and I don't find it a coincidence that I'm moving to some place that would very much like shake that up big time.
Yeah.
Like, because what I've read about it, moving on Uranus line is like you'll never feel at home. It'll be very short and you'll never feel at home. I'm like, oh, fantastic. So maybe that's the whole point, is to figure out how I can feel like I belong. I don't know. It's really interesting.
It is really interesting. You've definitely given me a lot of food for thought as I'm pondering different components of astrology and lived experience and piecing things together. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your willingness to just say it. Just say what it is that you are experiencing. Like I honor that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's not always fun to like tell someone that's actually not true for me, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you creating the safety that I could. And I want it to be true. I think that's the bottom line, is I
Mhm.
really want it to be true. Because I've done the whole like, I belong in my body, I'm safe in my body, I'm safe within myself, and it doesn't stick. And I don't know why.
Interesting.
I know.
Now I'm like, I can feel some part of me that's like, okay, now I've got to sleuth this out, but that's not the purpose of this, and it's not my place because I haven't asked permission to do that.
You
Um,
absolutely can. It's for research.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
important for you.
yeah, yeah, it is. So I'm going to say something, and you can let me know if you resonate with it a little or a lot or not at all.
Okay.
Some other thing that may perhaps come up. But what just popped into my mind in regards to this opposition between the moon and White Moon Selene, um, is just kind of this idea of, because sometimes with oppositions, it's almost like something outside of us will create an opposition. It will oppose us. And I'm wondering if, because these are such personal internal planets, even though one of them's technically not a planet, if maybe that oppositional energy, that like pushing against energy, is an internal thing, that instead of experiencing it externally, well, I would say you've probably experienced it externally as well. This internal, like almost like a little bit of a war, an internal war occurring.
Grand Cross.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And while they technically aren't in the Grand Cross, they are opposition, they're in opposition, but maybe you are feeling it. maybe you feel it. Because sometimes when aspect patterns are not quite there, according to rules of orbs and stuff like that, it's because it's felt on such a subtle, deep level that the native is just not going to be aware of it. But it's possible that you are attuned enough to your own energy and being able to see things that maybe other people can't see, that you feel what other people would say is not there.
I've never noticed that other Grand Cross. That is fascinating. I thought I knew my chart inside and outside, but thank you. Yeah, for
Awesome.
sure.
Yeah.
With the part of fortune, that seems important.
Hmm. And then there's Ceres, and then there's Mars, and then we've got what looks like Vesta.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's it's cardinal signs, which can be very connected to identity and a sense of who you are as an individual, who you are in relation to other people, who you are according to your tribe and where you came from and where you're going.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the North Node in Aries, right? Yeah. So identity is definitely connected to belonging, I guess. Fascinating.
Interesting. Okay.
Give me
So,
some
like,
homework.
there's more here. I didn't
Okay.
notice that before.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing is sometimes we just are so I would say almost obsessed. I'm so obsessed with this that I didn't notice this.
Yeah.
And there's deep information there. I can feel that. I can feel it in my stomach. It's like, oh, we have some interesting things to unpack here.
Well, and it is so interesting to me that, like, technically, yeah, things are far enough apart that it's like, yeah, most people would not probably even count that, but you feel it. Like, I'm not going to be all stringent and like, it must fit the rules, because sometimes the rules need to, like, the rules are a structure for us to work in, but they're not perfect.
Oh, yeah, but they need to be.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, what's coming up for me is perfection is identity or something like that. So, like, we will feel like I belong when I'm perfect. And that's not helpful.
Can you feel like you belong when you're progressing?
No, but
It's got to be perfect.
it's got to be perfect because that's when we are with
Yeah.
God.
And I'm wondering if, like, maybe the belonging piece, it's just not there for you right now. You just aren't able to connect with it. But I wonder if maybe you can connect with this idea of, like, somewhere, someone in the universe, I do belong because I am perfect and with God and like God.
Mhm.
And if you exist out there in the universe in that state at some time, someone, somewhere, whatever, then then it exists somewhere.
It's interesting because I have such cognitive dissonance about you're perfect as you are now.
Yeah.
I kick that out immediately because that goes against everything I'm taught. I think there's truth there, but at the same time, it's like, how can I be perfect now when I'm so flawed?
It seems like a paradox.
It's very much a paradox. So it's an interesting journey that you just set me on. This will be great. Gave you some homework. You gave me some.
Yeah. It's a mutual assigning of homework.
So, am I really the only person that you have come across that's never, ever, ever felt like any sense of belonging whatsoever?
You're the only person I've come across who has admitted that they have never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, felt
There's
like
that.
they belonged.
There's that. Need to know it's
Definitely.
possible. I think that's what it is because I'm sure it's probably more common than you think.
Oh, yeah. And I know I've interacted with plenty of people, including myself, where they feel like they don't belong anywhere in the physical realm that they currently are, but they feel some sense of belonging with something outside of that, or a sense of belonging to themselves, or just
Oh,
some thread of belonging somewhere, someone, somehow.
I know what I belong to. Truth.
Ooh.
I belong to truth.
That is so beautiful.
Oh my gosh. And that's why I felt like it's so hard to belong, because people keep saying like, we can only find truth in this place, in this place, in this place. And I'm like, but no, truth is everywhere.
It transcends all of that.
Yeah. And you can find it through everyone and all things. And, like one of my favorite scriptures is the spirit searcheth everything, or searcheth all things. When God introduced me to that scripture again, that's when I decided to certify in astrology, because I was crazy resistant to it. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm not doing that. Let's just put a big old X on my back, right?
Yeah.
It's like pushed and pushed. And I know this is a very common story for a lot of women. It's like, God made me, basically.
Come on.
Keeps pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. Like, fine, fine, fine. But it lights a fire in you. So he didn't make me. He just helped me see I wanted it.
Yeah.
But then I needed to be okay wanting it. That's besides the point. But truth, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I belong to truth, and you can find it everywhere. And I don't care if someone has led a really awful life and they say something truthful. I'm going to say there's truth, and I'm not going to completely throw it out because they made all these kinds of mistakes. No,
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter where it came from. If it is truth, it is truth. Doesn't matter whose mouth it came out of or what book it came out of. There can be untruth and truth mixed up in a person or a thing. And if you can discern the difference, then why reject the truth over the fact that it was next to an untruth?
I'm with you. And that's why I went, and astrology was like, oh my gosh, there's so much truth here. But it is hard to see so much truth in it and to feel so much value and have people just look at it and be like, this is nonsense. It's just hard. And I know not everyone's going to find value in it, and it's fine. But sometimes I kind of wish that more people did,
Yeah. Or it's not like, I'm not just crazy or silly, and it's not either entertainment or evil. Like,
right?
can you trust that I don't know, the people, especially people who know me, it's like, you know me. Do you really think I'm going to be involved in something that's just a total bunch of malarkey and believe that it's true? Like, you know me. Like, okay.
There's just so many doors here to the self, to God. Like, how can you not walk through them?
Yeah.
I don't understand, but it's fine. That's where people are. Thank you. That was just the perfect ground that I needed for the hell of a day.
Well, I'm glad that that this has been a valuable experience for you.
Yeah, hugely. Of someone that's never, ever, ever felt like they belong to anywhere or anything. Yeah, this is not just a little thing, Kayelee. This is a huge thing, because you gave me something to really ground to and to stand on when my world is about to be shaken like crazy.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad. I mean, in watching you during this, it very much feels like that truth came from you, and that I just helped poke around at enough things for it to like come up to the surface.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad. I feel both grateful and honored to have had even like a part in that for you.
Thank you.
The research interview / mini session you just listened to was recorded over a year ago when I was actively testing my theories about Black Moon Lilith, Eve Point, and White Moon Selene against volunteers' birth charts and their lived experiences. The recording was used with permission from the interviewee. Black Moon Lilith and Eve Point are now fully vetted components of what I call the Feminine Powerline, the personal axis, flavor, the color, if you will, of a person's exiled feminine energy and where their deepest longing has been buried. Working with these points in this axis has broken me open in ways I never anticipated.
it's shown me where strength and power lie in myself and others. And it's brought me closer to a wholeness and an at-homeness in my own being that I honestly thought was out of reach for me. Where Black Moon Lilith marks the power underneath the exile, Eve Point marks the longing that went underground in response to that exile. Reclaiming both parts of yourself is a journey. I believe it's the most vital journey that you can embark on. If you'd like to begin that journey on your own, you can get my free Feminine Powerline guide by going to guide.resonantastrology.com. That's guide, Guide, .resonantastrology, ResonanTastrology.com. And if you want some support on that journey, some individualized support, you can learn more about working with me at resonantastrology.com. And I'm really excited to be announcing this. If you'd like to get on the wait list for the Feminine Powerline self-paced course that I'm nearly finished creating, you can do so at femininepowerline.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for exploring the intersection of astrology and feminine energy and real lived experience with me. And we'll see you next week when we drop our next episode of the Feminine Alchemy podcast.